So I said to her, I'd like to grow old with you. And that was our first date. I was 26 years old, the hormones were talking, and I wanted to get lucky. 1966 was a very stressful year. I completed a 3-year marriage with a high school sweetheart. It fizzled. Dropped out of law school, even though my father had a place for me in the firm. Uncle Sam sent me an invitation to vacation in Vietnam, and I lived in an 8x10 room with a fraternity brother who was not Mr. Clean. Neither was I. It was his sister's house, a very small house. Now, she was very compassionate. She would listen to all my issues, and she decided that she was going to fix me up and repair my damaged life. So I received Luann's phone number. I would call Luann, talk with her. She sounded nice, but she was always very evasive when it came to talking about a date. Subsequently, I kept calling, and her roommate answered the phone. She said, oh, Luann was busy. She was never around. Her name was Arlene. Well, she sounded pretty nice, and I thought, well, I'll try and take her out. Well, during one of our conversations, she mentioned that she went to the University of Iowa. And I said, well, so did I. You had to know me. I was a big man on campus. Mistake. That was the last conversation I had with Arlene. Now, after I called then, nobody answered the phone. That was my last contact at that number. Then a series of events took place that changed everything. I was working, wanted to do something I always dreamed of doing, and that was to have my own band. So I put a band together. It was time. Our lead singer was Rusty. We used to practice together, work out our routines, and we had a good time. The band was ready to get on the road. About mid-December, Rusty said her new roommate was going to have a party. It was actually a friend of hers. And I said, yeah, that sounds good. And I didn't think anything of it at the time. I asked her roommate's name, and she said, it's Arlene. And Luann moved out, and Arlene replaced her. So I said, I can't go to that party. She hates me. But Rusty convinced me to go. She gave me my self-confidence back. And then she introduced me to everybody in the room. And then it happened. Bob, I'd like you to meet my roommate, Arlene. Wow, pretty blue-eyed blonde before me, and she hates me. I had to be on my best behavior. I apologized for the big man remark, and the conversation flowed, and we spent most of the evening together. I asked her out, and this time she said yes. Our first date was at a band rehearsal. During the break, I brought a tropical drink over to the table, sat down with her. I took the cherry out of the drink and I said, close your eyes, I have a big surprise for you. Well, of course, she thought I was going to put the cherry in her mouth. Instead, I kissed her. Now, I was not invited to do this, and I knew this could be my first or my last kiss.
Oh, one last kiss, oh, give me one last kiss. It never felt like this, no, never felt like this.
It was wonderful. She gave me that disarming smile, and I knew I wanted this woman around. Our first real date, however, was New Year's Eve. I picked her up. She opened the door, and I was breathless. She had on a sexy purple dress and purple pineapple earrings. She must have thought we were going to the inaugural ball, and I explained it was just an evening with some friends, low key, and we were just going to relax and enjoy ourselves. So we got there to the apartment, and the host served us drinks, and then he announced that he had some special entertainment for the evening. I said, "What's that?" He said, "I'm going to show you a porn movie in which I starred." Oh my God, I was mortified. If the big man remark didn't do me in, this could end our relationship. It would be over. I apologized profusely. This was so unexpected. But she was not shocked. She was relaxed. She went with the flow. She was so cool while I was so embarrassed. At that moment, I thought I might be falling in love with her. We started seeing each other multiple times per week. Got me through my routine job. At the end of the day, I'd fly to the merchandise mart where she worked for Eastern Airlines. And I would wait for her. And wait for her. Sometimes it was up to an hour until she came down. She would always apologize, explaining that she was with a client on the phone, and she's simply late. It's always been that way, and I've come to expect that. But January 26, 1967, the weatherman was predicting snow. Not unusual for Chicago. It snows in Chicago in January. So the 2 weeks before that, it was 60-something degrees, a freaky warm day, and we should have known something was coming. So the plan was I would take her home, drop her, go home, change, come back. We were going to go to the movie. So we walked in the door, and there was Rusty and Roger, the bass player in the group. And I said, "Hey, I'll hang around just until the snow lets up a little bit." The snow never let up. They were advising on the radio, do not attempt to go out. Don't go anywhere. Well, this was perfectly okay with me.
Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Man, it doesn't show signs.
Here I was stranded with the most beautiful woman in the world and Roger and Rusty from the band. Well, one night, however, Rusty and Roger decided they were going to go grocery shopping. And they would be gone hours. I thought, holy smokes, this is perfect. Wow, alone at last. That was the night I uttered those words. I want to grow old with you. Now, was that the hormones talking? Did I really mean it? Who knows? Let me just sum up the evening that night this way.
Oh, what a night. Late December back in 63. What a very special...
It snowed for 4 straight days, and we got to know each other. After that time, Chicago was back. It was the deepest snowfall we've ever had in our history. And during that time, we realized that we had a lot in common. But the biggie was a sense of humor. We both never laughed so hard in those 4 days. In March, I asked her to marry me. And the same woman who wouldn't talk to me said yes. So we started planning our wedding. She was so sweet. She's so demure. Just look at her. That's us. That's me. I was pretty hot, too. It was a great wedding. And at that point, I knew we were going to really grow old together. I was looking so forward to not only a life with her, but the free flying benefits that Eastern Airlines offer. We planned a honeymoon to Lima, Buenos Aires, Rio de Janeiro. It was great. Shortly after that, we were invited over to a friend's house. The same woman where I lived, they had decided I was going to get my first premarital test. Now, a guy who's been married before really needs to be tested. That loyalty needs to be tested. So they decided, without my knowledge, that they were going to talk about the flying benefits at Eastern Airlines and that her parents could fly, but the spouse could not fly for free, and that our exotic honeymoon was going to be full cash price. Well, I finally said the right thing. I said, I don't care. I still want to marry this woman. And the truth is, spouses do fly for free. We all laughed, and I passed my test. It was a lovely wedding. She was so demure, so sweet, as you could see she is. And we got in the car to go on our honeymoon. It was parked right parallel to Kung's home where we had a reception. And as I got in my side, a crazy driver whizzed by, nearly taking the door off and taking me out. Well, what came out of my bride's mouth shocked me. She screamed at the other car at the top of her lungs, "You fucking asshole!" I realized two things at that point. She really cared for me, and she had an edge that she had hidden from me for 7 months. That edge is still there. Decades have gone by, and we really begin to think alike. In certain situations, I know what she's thinking, I know what she's going to do, vice versa. And a perfect example of this is we were visiting my sister in Boston. We're walking down by the Charles River. We were talking about the current events of the day. And we discussed William Shatner's situation. If you remember, his wife mysteriously died, and he was a suspect. When they questioned him, he said, "Oh, my lovely, wonderful wife, I would never harm her. I was so in love. I'm so shattered by this. I don't know what to do." Well, we all looked at each other in the same way as when the O.J. verdict came in years later. My sister asked what I would have said under those circumstances. And my wife and I, without missing a beat, broke out into song in unison. Ding dong, the witch is dead. We all laughed until tears came out of our eyes. But this exemplifies what holds the marriage together, that strange sense of humor. About a month ago, I clipped an article that I saw on the internet in the Patch obituary column. And it showed a 1930s couple, their wedding photo, and how after 69 years they died together within minutes of each other holding hands. I don't know if you saw that true story. When I asked my wife what she would do if I took her hand in that situation, and she said, "Hun, when one of us dies, I'm going to Florida."
I'm going where the sun keeps shining through the pouring rain.
I saw my wife the other day, and I told her I wanted to grow older with her. This time it was me talking and not the hormones. Those have diminished substantially. And the forces and the love potions that have kept this marriage together for 50 years have indeed changed. Thank you very much.
She said, "What you need is love."